Hello, welcome back. I am your host, Charles Musgrove with Answers That Count. Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode. You know, all the shows are great, so this is going to be another one. So just sit back, buckle up, and get ready for a great show. You know, we have all of our other shows out there on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. Make sure that you subscribe and that you hit the alert button, the little bell, so that you'll get notified of future shows that we post. We're also on Roku TV and Fire TV. Be sure to subscribe to that as well, and you'll get notified of future shows that are posted out there. And if you like podcasts, we're on all your favorite podcast channels. Apple Podcast is one, iHeartRadio, Spotify. So we're on all those podcast channels. So be sure to subscribe and hit the alert button so you'll get notified when we post future shows out there. So this is going to be a show that's a little bit different, but it's going to be awesome, just like all of our other shows. We are joined with Steele Smith the third, and he's out in California. Steele, welcome to Answers That Count.
Thank you, Charles.
All
it's
right,
good to be here.
man. It's great to have somebody from the other side of the United States join us today. We've done people that are from Colorado, so I think you're the farthest left that we've gone. So thank you from joining us from the West Coast.
Yes, sir.
So where are you at in California?
Orange County, Anaheim.
All right, so you're in Anaheim. So what's the latest with the fires out there?
You know, I think most of them in Southern California are suppressed now.
Okay,
a couple
good.
of weeks ago, it was really bad. And last week, the skies were just plain orange and ash was raining down all the way to the beaches.
Man.
So it was really bad in Southern California.
Yeah, so is the state pretty much still shut down from COVID, or are they opening up, or what's going on with that?
Now, Gavin's still wielding a pretty heavy hand and keeping the state locked down and pretty reticent to open most industries. I think the cosmetology industry just got some room, but most dining and group experiences are still shuttered.
Yeah, we're here in Florida, and we just got notified. Today is Friday, September 25th, and we just got notified from our great Governor DeSantis, that he has gone to phase 3. So that is a further opening up of the state. And I haven't had a chance to read what all that means, but I think it allows full capacity at restaurants and possibly a further opening of the rest of the bars and lounges as well. When they open, he just allowed the bars and the lounges to open a couple of weeks ago, and they were at 50% capacity. So I believe those may be opened up as well to 100%. So we'll see, but it's if you look at Florida and California, that's kind of an opposite in how the governors have handled that. Florida's been pretty much on the leading edge of opening the state and to the businesses. So California, I think they opened early and they closed back down. So it's a tale of two states there.
So well said. So true.
Yeah, we were. It's funny. I was before we started recording for the show. We were talking about the previous guest that we had, and we were actually talking about some of the one of the rules or the laws that your governor out there, Gavin Newsom, passed related to production of automobiles. I believe it's in 2035, where he's limiting or either ceasing the production of gasoline automobiles in the state of California. So that'll be interesting to see what the effect of that is. You'll have jacked up prices for used cars in the state, and you'll probably have a lot of people buying gasoline automobiles from outside the state and still driving them inside of California. So it'll be interesting to see what that happens. But that's way down the road, right?
I really don't think Gavin will be around that long. I think we'll have a new governor who will repeal that action, just like when President Obama limited horsepower by 20. I think it was 24.
Right.
It was impending. It was coming really close.
Oh, yeah.
President Trump repealed that immediately. So, we have a horsepower wars going on right now. And the irony of all that is, in my mind, is car culture really started in California.
That's
You know,
true.
the customization of cars, uh, street racing,
Yeah.
car culture,
Route
car
66.
hops, drive-in theaters.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, we're California's car culture. So to take the combustion engine from us is kind of kneecapping 2/3 of the population that has a garage and loves to tinker with their automobile.
Exactly. And if you look not just in California but across America, we love our cars, and there's a lot of people that like big cars, fast cars, and those with horsepower, even the big Suburbans. I mean, give me the
Right.
Mustang or the big Suburban. People like that. I mean, don't try to take that away from people, or you're going to have a problem.
No, and just the tinkering with the equipment and keeping your car in tuned up shape or upgrading it is a great hobby for a lot of people. And getting on your phone and messing around with an app to tweak your car just doesn't have the same tactile experience of the grease under your fingernails.
Exactly. Yeah, that little sewing machine electric car is not quite the same thrill as getting in a Mustang, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So, like I said, I am in the state of Florida, so we're actually on the sunny coast of Northwest Florida. I'm in the great studio of 30A TV, and this is Studio A that we're in today. I'm going to call that it's called A because of Answers That Count. So we are in the 98 Distillery right here in we'll call it Destin, Florida. So we got sunshine from Florida and the sunshine from California. So it's great that you're on the show today. So being from Florida, we legalized the use of medical marijuana a few years ago. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I know that California has kind of been we call it the Wild West when it comes to the use of medical or marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. So those can be different extremes. I know you got a lot more open use of marijuana as far as what's legally allowed, not just from a medical purpose out in California compared to what we have in Florida. So tell our audience a little bit about the differences between the two, and then we'll zero in on the product that you have developed.
Thank you. So most cannabis legalization really starts with medicinal,
Right.
and legislators in most states find that to be a plausible, reasonable opening in the dialogue from prohibition to legalization. And the issue of sick people needing cannabis as their medicine is kind of an issue that no one can really say no to, especially in the face of all of the evidence that cannabis is great medicine for a
Right.
variety of ailments. It can't kill you. The LD50 is 0, and the side effects are absolutely minimal. With the main one being, if you take too much, you get high,
Right.
and some people don't like that. Some people have negative experiences. Some people do like that. But that's a separate discussion. Related to the legalization of cannabis, medicinal is really that opening dialogue.
Right.
And once legislators gain comfort with their policy and metrics within the state of arrests and just various metrics of problems start to pan out, then the legislators are able to make more informed decisions about, do we maintain status quo at medical, or do we move on into less restrictive forms like recreational full legalization,
Right.
where you can have, out in California, we have dispensaries that are stores. They're not even called dispensaries anymore. They're just cannabis stores, and they look like liquor stores.
So if you want to go in and any Tom, Dick, or Harry, if they want to go buy cannabis, they don't have to have a prescription to get that in California. Is that right?
No, sir. And they're on about every other block, and you just have to be 18 and have an ID.
Wow. Yeah, that is it's a tough issue, and people fall on both sides of that. It's a much easier argument. It's a much easier convince that there's a medical reason for that, and there's a medical benefit, especially when you see the rise of opioid abuse and use and deaths in the United States. And if you can replace any of that with truly a medical use of marijuana, that makes a lot of sense. If you can have a much more stable use of that and a replacement of the opioids.
That's a great point. The opioid crisis really has been the catalyst to fuel the medicinal legalization of cannabis across the country. It started in California in the 1980s because we had an initial AIDS crisis with the largest population of those affected in San Francisco. And a lot of people in Northern California. California's been pot culture since the 60s. It's ubiquitous. And the AIDS culture was using cannabis to abate the symptoms of AIDS.
Right.
Wasting, thrash, nausea. And they were reporting to their physicians that their cannabis use was helping. The other side of that is that at that time, there was only a synthetic form known as Marinol. It's now generic, known as dronabinol, which is a single molecule Delta-9 THC molecule that the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies initially developed to replace the cannabinoid natural form, because the doctor's initial issue was they couldn't write a prescription. They couldn't fill it. All they could really say to the patient was, well, if that's helping, keep doing that. And that was always kind of on the down low, on the QT. Doctors would put their medical licenses at risk by even acknowledging that. And so it's really within the AIDS community that the activist community for cannabis really organized. Passed the Compassionate Act use of 1996, which is Health and Safety Code 11367.5. And that's the beginning of the history of the legalization in California and the trajectory over to recreational, which I think is really a beautiful thing, because today we have over half the states in the United States that have at least medicinal laws, and nearly a quarter of the states have full recreational. So the trajectory towards full legalization has actually occurred a bit quicker than I've expected. And I think that the next thing to happen, and kind of the final step to occur, is for the DEA to reschedule cannabis from a 1 to a 2 or a 3, allowing doctors to safely use cannabinoids, particularly for pain, in that medial section on the 1 to 10 pain scale of 4 to 7, where your NSAIDs, your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, Tylenol, Motrin, ibuprofen, really cease efficacy. Doctors typically would pre-indicate hydrocodone at about a pain level 4, which is just a sprained ankle for most work-related injuries. And now you've got a person on the sofa getting their brain tickled with opioids, not going to work, watching TV, and society needs people going back to work from an injury.
Yeah, it makes a lot of,
especially an injury that doesn't require opioids.
right. It makes a lot of sense from a medical perspective. There's going to be a lot of pushback in a lot of places for the purely recreational. So we'll see how that comes out, and time will tell what the outcome of that is. Let's talk a little bit about the business side of that, because with the regulatory environment that's in, there's been a lot of changes that we've all seen probably within the last couple of years with the capital markets as well, and a lot of Canadian markets became active in the medical marijuana or the marijuana industry. So give us a little history on that, on what happened initially and where that is today. I think a lot of that's dried up as far as the Canadians coming into investing in U.S. companies, but give us the insight on that.
Well, there was a real rush when the recreational laws passed in California for investors, and a lot of them got burned. A lot of deals didn't pan out, valuations were off, and taxation in California is really high. The regulatory environment is stiff. The barrier to entry to a GMP, general manufacturing principles environment, not utilizing pesticides or heavy metals in your nutrients such that your finished product passes testing, so that it can satisfy the requirements for the retail market. Um, those factors have really not eliminated the illegal market. They've kind of balanced out the black market.
So the black
There's
market is
really,
strong in California.
it's stronger almost than it's ever been.
Even with the legalization of marijuana, even on a recreational basis, has still allowed the push the black market to flourish.
Yes, because the police's desire or mandate to enforce cannabis laws in a legal state is now a lower priority. So when it was fully illegal, if you had 10 people producing illegally for every 100 in the state, now you've got 50 for every 100 producing. Because in this legal environment, people feel that they can fill their garage or, a couple bedrooms and produce some weight and out the back door and across state lines to a dry state, and you've just got 5 times on your money.
So the enforcement is not as stringent now that they've legalized it in the state of California. So you've got the black market as people are producing and growing marijuana in the state and then selling it in other states that are not legal in any way.
We're the number one supplier of the black market in dry states.
Interesting.
Nobody's getting Mexican weed anymore. Nobody's shipping Mexican weed over the border. Only the expensive stuff's coming over the border in smaller quantities.
Are
Those
they
big bales, nobody's messing with them anymore.
so?
We get better quality right here in California, and it's easier to get it across the California border than it is the US border.
Wow. So that's interesting. So the legalization is really, instead of capturing all of that and being able to tax it, then you see the black market flourishing and selling it in other states where none of that's being caught by the system.
Exactly, which is why those other states need to acknowledge that their continued prohibition of cannabis is an untenable position, and they should be benefiting from the tax revenue, and they should open the business model.
Right. So what when you made the point that the a lot of the Canadian money capital markets that came into the state of California to invest in those companies that they got burned, what caused that? So the valuation was too high when they made the initial investment?
Well, that's a small part of it. I think really the major portion is just the lack of sophistication and kind of the clash between sophisticated European investors coming into a opening, burgeoning US market that's full of cowboys
Right. Interesting.
that don't really speak business talk, don't really understand pro formas or valuations or budgets, and now the cowboys are forced to take off the galoshes of a grower and put on the business tie of a businessman, and that's a rough trajectory for a lot of folk.
Interesting. So tell me about the tax code is makes it a very steep curve as well from a business model. And tell me about the what's deductible for taxes in a normal income statement for a grower or someone selling marijuana that's legalized in the state of California. What are they up against from just a taxation standpoint on their federal tax return?
So Honestly, I'm not exactly sure because the numbers have changed recently, so I don't want to misstate what the tax numbers are, but I can say this. Tax code 280E in California, which allows for the deduction of COGS, cost of goods sold, is illegal. So that's actually the third factor. And I was trying to think of that when you were asking me about the factors as to why the black market is still burgeoning. The high tax cost, 280E is the other factor. The
Right.
fact that we have to pay for our cost of goods sold. And
Right.
then the barrier of entry, just the cost of manufacturing, makes it attractive for a lot of people to just
That
stay out
it
of
makes it very
the,
hard. Yeah. So
yeah,
for those watching this, the cost of goods sold is typically one of the largest expense items on a business's income statement. So if you're not allowed to deduct that for calculation of your taxable income, then that's a big penalty because you got to pay the money out anyway. You're spending that money, but you don't get a deduction for it.
exactly. And that's huge. And I believe the state's working on that issue.
So that is I guess that's the next frontier is what happens on the federal level because those are federal tax code that's preventing that deduction, and we see the and you made reference to it before. It's the reclassification of cannabis from a class 1 to a class 2 or 3, uh, because that also affects the banking, how companies are able to bank. I mean, they're not able to make their deposits and withdrawals in a normal banking institution either if they're in the cannabis business. Is that correct?
It's exactly correct. It makes it very difficult. And an industry of moving cash around has grown as a result.
Right. So anytime you're dealing with currency, there's a lot of risk in that. There's just the street element of makes it a higher risk for the criminal element to be involved. It makes it a higher risk that there's going to be embezzlement and cash goes missing. So you just got a lot of complications with that because people like to deal with banks. It's a lot secure. You have a lot higher accountability if you're dealing with banks rather than a bunch of dollar bills and hard currency that people are transacting business.
Very true.
Yeah. So let's jump over to tell me a little bit about your business. I know the product that you have created it's in the medical marijuana field. Is that right?
Yes, sir. It's a prescription tablet that is divisible, titratable, whole, and active. It's really what the prescribing community needs. I can speak for the prescribing community in California, really understands that we've been a cannabis state legal now for nearly 20 years, and a little over 20 years, and we have a deep history of cannabis. So there's really not a prescribing professional that hasn't heard about cannabis or doesn't think it's medicine or hasn't heard a testimonial from a patient of theirs that said cannabis benefited my X ailment,
Right.
right? So the issue for doctors is how do they prescribe on their prescription pad cannabis? No doctor's ever going to write smoke half a joint, take 2 gummies, take 2 bites of a brownie, take 3 puffs off of a vape cartridge and call me in the morning.
That's not
That's
measurable.
that's not measurable, right? What's measurable is milligrams over body weight over time. That's titration, and all drugs are titrated, particularly drugs of abuse. And so when a doctor prescribes a drug that could potentially be abused, like benzodiazepines, opioids, amphetamines, all of those drugs have the propensity for a person to deviate from what's prescribed,
Right.
doctor's orders. and that's called drug-seeking behavior. That's considered, that's illegal.
Right.
So in order for the prescribing community to truly feel comfortable about the dosing of something that in their mind can be abused, it has to be manufactured in a form that the prescribing community can prescribe milligrams over body weight over time, where you're delivering a therapeutic dose of the cannabinoid in the person to alleviate the underlying condition without getting them high.
Interesting. So we're looking right now at the website for C3, and the on the home page it says the first standardized form of medical cannabis. So is that that sounds like that's a first? Do you have a patent for that, or what protects the this product that you're able to market?
So we're currently a post proof of concept, pre-revenue life sciences company. And in the life sciences drug development industry, our products are typically chemicals. So as such, a chemical is not something that any pharmaceutical company files a patent on unless they're prepared to defend it. So there's a doctrine of law and patent law known as trade secrets.
Mm-hmm.
So we operate as trade secrets as a privately held company. We expect that within a 3 to 5 year window, we'll be M&A'd, mergers and acquisitions, and at 30 to 40x annual revenue. And at that time, we will, once paid, of course, give them the recipe, and their legal counsel can then file for that patent protection. Chemical recipes only get 15 years versus most other patents get 25. So we've already been at this for about 6 years. If I'd have filed that patent, we'd be down to 9 years left, and I would have been eating up that time.
Right.
So it was really a strategic decision to operate under trade secrets and not place ourselves in a potentially litigious position.
Right. Well, Steele, we are nearing the end of the recorded show for the radio spot, so we're gonna do a break here. So I want to thank you for educating us on the cannabis industry, the history out in California, and as it really was the leader across the United States. And we've talked primarily about the legalization for medical purposes. And it's interesting to hear your take on that, and we appreciate that. This is very informative about what you've got going on with your own product and how that'll be hitting the market soon. And hang around. I'll be right back with you. Those that are watching, stay tuned for the post show. We'll do a wrap up on the post show where we touch on a few more items. I'm your host, Charles Musgrove. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Answers That Count. Be sure and check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the alert button. We're on Apple Podcasts, Roku TV, and at Fire TV as well. Be sure to subscribe there. Check us out each week. Have a great day. Have a blessed week. Peace. All right, so everybody hang on for just a little bit more, and we will give a proper goodbye to Steele. Steele, thank you for joining us. That was good information that you gave to us, and we're still recording on the YouTube and on the podcast right now. So I appreciate that information. Any other final items you'd like to mention?
No, I really appreciate it. If you'd by chance have the Idrisil home screen, if you could put that up for a second, that'd be awesome.
We do. Hold on just a second. We'll flash that on. And this is the product, is that right? The Idrisil?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell us the difference between C3, which we had up before, and Idrisil.
So Idrisil is the drug, and C3 is the manufacturer, the holding company for the intellectual property for Idrisil.
Gotcha. So Idrisil is basically the retailer. They're selling it to the end user, or are they selling it to other businesses?
End user.
Okay. So is this product for sale now?
Yes, sir. Pre-orders are available now, and I will let you know that with a population of 40 million residents in California, We're limited by state canopy. That canopy allows for a capped production, which for Yggdrasil is 300,000 bottles a month, which represents less than 2% of the population in the state of California. So for those people that want Yggdrasil, we do have pre-sales on now so that people can get in line and not miss out.
Now,
they are going to sell out, and anybody down the road that wants to be able to get Yggdrasil is going to have to wait in line until a space comes available.
wow.
So
That
we
is
encourage people to take advantage.
those numbers sound like it's an extreme amount. So that's awesome that you could hit capacity of what you're able to produce and sell.
Thank you.
When are you at that level now, or is it pre-sales that you're filling that capacity now?
We're filling that capacity now, and we expect to ship in Q1 of 21.
So that's soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the manufacturing facilities are there in Anaheim also?
No, sir. Out in the desert in Cathedral City.
Okay. And are you selling from internet sales directly from the manufacturer? Or are you going to retailers, or do you have retail shops?
Internet sales.
Okay.
So all sales for Yggdrasil are online at yggdrasil.com. Just click the order button, submit your prescription, and we ship directly to your door.
Is this
by UPS?
Are you shipping across the United States, or is it only in California?
For now, only in California.
Okay. All right, Steele, anything else you'd like to add to the show?
I really appreciate your time and having me on today.
It's been very informative. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know you didn't have to get up early, but it's still morning time for you. We're in the afternoon here in Florida. So thank you for joining us from the far out west. We've got the United States covered today. So thank you for joining us. Be safe out there. Be safe from COVID. Stay out of those fires as well, and don't be striking any matches. It's still a hot kindling out there in California, as I hear it.
Thank you, Charles.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. And you've been listening and watching Answers That Count. I'm your host, Charles Musgrove. Check us out on our other shows, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the alert button there. We're on Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast channels. From the West Coast to the East Coast, we're signing off. Have a great day. Have a blessed week. Peace.